can't figure out where I want to clip this mic. And so I'm going to hold it for the intro. Hello, I am Taylor of TLB Knits, and this is a little podcast where I talk about everything that I have been working on, will be working on, and what I bought yarn to work on as well. I mostly am a knitter, but I started as a crocheter, so I will talk about a little bit of everything here. I do go on tangents about spinning once in a while, and I don't know how to sew, but maybe one day I'll learn. So I'm Taylor. I am TLB Knits here, as well as on Instagram. You can also find me on Ravelry as TLB Knits Designs. That's where I publish all of my patterns. I also use my Instagram to call for test knits, which I will be talking about one right now. I am wearing my Garter Brick Cowl. I've been calling it the GBC Garter Brick Cowl. But I'm going to be putting a call for test out on my Instagram as well as linked below this video. So click on the link to the form and you can fill that out and sign up to test knit this cowl to get an early view of the pattern and give me some feedback on if you can understand it okay. If you can't, I want to make sure that my pattern is written well for everybody to follow before I publish it. So this pattern is both written and charted instructions, so sign up for which one you prefer to follow. I will make both available to you during the test, but I want to make sure that I have testers that are following each instructions to make sure that it turns out perfect. This takes fingering weight yarn. I used 50 grams of two colors. So I pulled some sock yarn out of stash. I'm sure we all have those single skeins of sock yarn that we picked up on a yarn show or when we first started knitting socks and couldn't get enough of all of this fun variegated yarn. Well, this is intended to use two of those colors, whichever colors you choose, they will play nicely together. And this is knit on a size US 5 or 3.75 millimeter needle, and it knits up fairly quickly. It's knit flat and seamed, and if you do not know how to do your increases, make one left or make one right, or you just find that to be quite a bit of a slog, you won't have to worry about that here because it's all knit front back increases, no directional increases. So that's my little test knit that's going to be starting. I'm going to call for it this week, and then it'll start on April 20th. My pattern is currently in tech editing, so as soon as that tech editing wraps up and I put it into the final formatting, I will be sending it out to all of the testers who sign up in the meantime. I also like to run a little Instagram group, so if you're willing to do Instagram chatting with all of our friends that we make through the test knit, I find it a great way just to build community. This particular test knit doesn't need too many knitters, but I won't say no to anybody joining in who wants to be a part of the fun. So with that, I'm going to jump right into my finished objects. So today I don't have too much to show for finished objects in person because I have been gift knitting like crazy. I've had a bunch of friends have their birthdays in April, so I'm just going to keep holding my mic until I have to hold something up. Otherwise, I'm going to be putting pictures here for you all to see what I'm working on and what the finished object look like. Some of these are accessories, and these accessories are hard to photograph, but let's get right in. So like I said, not a lot of finished objects, but my first one is the Coziest Beanie Ever by me. This pattern is currently in test, but it is releasing this week. So you will be able to get 25 off of this pattern by using the code YouTube25. This pattern is a simple bottom up beanie hat meant to be slouchy and cozy or tight knit, if tight to your noggin, whatever you prefer. It's graded for 4 sizes, and I include a modification sheet so you're able to get the most out of your scrap yarn if you choose to use scraps, how to add the beaded embellishments that I did on my original sample shown here. But in this one, I just knit the pattern as is in a size medium. Yes, size medium. This was for my friend at bowling. I use Mad Dye yarns. They're DK weight base in the colorway Lovers, and the pom-pom is from 614 Knit Studio. So last week I went on the Columbus craft crawl not last week, a couple weeks ago, I went on the Columbus craft crawl while I was visiting down there, and I picked all of this yarn up knowing that I was going to be making this gift for my friend. Next up is another gift. This is my second and final finished object. We'll get into the meat of the knitting during the works in progress section. But this is a crochet bandana. I tied it up with a cute little bow. It's basically just half a granny square with some chain ties on it to be able to look like a hair scarf. I don't really use a pattern for this, but TL Yarn Crafts has tutorials on how to do all things granny squares. So if you just make a half a granny square in whatever stitch pattern you like, you turn out with a triangle and you can attach chain stitches on either end. And then it folds up like a nice little envelope that you can tie a bow on. And that's how I took my picture, because I wasn't going to wear something that I wasn't going to put something on my head that I made for somebody else's head. I just feel like that's a little weird. If it's my dad or my boyfriend or, somebody that's not just a friend, I will put it on. But for friends, I like to just keep it clean. I do block it. I did not block this one. That's what I literally made it the same day that I gave it to her. So yeah, that's where we're at. So those are my two finished objects. Like I said, that's not a lot. I usually have a lot more done in a couple weeks, but I have been working on a lot of garments, which we will talk about as a work in progress. So for my whips, works in progress, I need to put my notes to the side. So I'll be looking down there and also try and clip this on nicely. Ooh. Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can't, I'm going to try and turn the volume up on uh, my speaking for you. So my works in progress. I have 3 or 4. Let's look. I technically might have 4, but one of them is going to be frogged. We'll talk about that at the end. For my first work in progress, I have started a new design. This is going to be a raglan style t-shirt, and there's ends everywhere, but here she is. If I can figure it out, cue applause. So I am using 3 colors of Blue Sky Fibers Organic Cotton Sport. I get a 20 stitch gauge with this yarn. I've knit with it 2 or 3 times now, so I'm very familiar with my gauge. So I just started a t-shirt and I started to grade it. It has purl details on the raglan increases, so we don't have to worry about jogs in our stripes because the purl helps get rid of that jog. A jog is where when you are starting a new color in your yarn, the row where you started is going to be slightly above where it ends because you're technically working in a spiral. Or I said that wrong. Where it starts is below where it ends. So it's going to look like you have stacked stitches that are a little staggered. By putting a purl in there, it actually kind of pulls it up and makes it look like there's no jog because purls naturally do that. So, yep, it's a raglan. I have finished the yoke. I started this last Saturday. Today is Sunday, so I finished the yoke. I'm a couple inches into the body. I'm really enjoying this. I'm going to try and keep it very simple with the finishings, not too much ribbing, more of a I-cord finish or a raw edge. I think the I-cord will look nicer because of the stripe pattern here. But yeah, this is a very fun design. I'm knitting this to fit a 46-inch bust. That'll give me about 4 inches of positive ease on my body size, but I plan to grade it to be from 28 to 64 inches at least. I do have my spreadsheet that tells me numbers, but this is my first time truly grading out a raglan style pattern. So I don't know how long it'll take me. I will need testers. So if you're into this kind of thing, even without stripes, I would love to have you. And I will keep you all in the loop when this is done. So that's my first work in progress. The one that's been getting the most airtime for me. Let's talk about the one that's been getting the least airtime. This is Kanava by Nina. Looking at my notes. This is Kanava by Nina Holubkova. I'm going to put a little graphic here so you can see what it's supposed to look like. And this is what mine is looking like so far. It's quite difficult to hold up. So I have finished the yoke and a sleeve. It's in this all over lace texture, and all of the finishings are these cute little welts. I did seam down my welt with the bind off because it was looking a little floppy. I'll see if I have a good picture of it and I'll put it in. If I don't, just take my word for it. The welts are floppy with the bind off, and if you have any tips on how to make that better, I would love to hear down below. But this collar was a lot of fun to knit, but I was having issues with the way the placards were falling on me. They were looking wavy and bunchy and not quite normal. So I did a mid-project block. This is off the needles because I did that mid-project block. I need to put this back on my needles. I wanted to finish it while my nails still matched the project. I got them done again, and they no longer match the project. But I stalled once I took it off the needles, and I do fully plan to finish this. I love the yarn. I'm knitting this up in the Fiber Company Luma. This is a DK weight yarn that is a wool, linen, and cotton blend. So it's perfect for a lightweight, airy garment, but the wool will give it some memory so it doesn't just get floppy right away. I really needed that for the collar on here. I wanted to wear this on an upcoming work trip, but I think I'm just going to have to save it for another day because I'm not going to finish this in a week. I could really try and apply myself to do that, but I have other projects that I'm enjoying working on, like the last one, that I would like to keep going. So my plan would be that the next time I pick this up, I'm going to pick up the other sleeve, finish that one out, and then I just have the body to go. It fits nicely after blocking. I'll post a little short about what it looked like before blocking once it's actually, once I have a little bit more on the body. I don't feel like it's worth showing again with how skimpy it is. Look, it just comes to the bottom of the V-neck and then that's it. It's worked in a very interesting way. So this is a drop shoulder pattern. You start with a welt on the back neck, so you have a nice shoulder detail, which I know we all love. And then you do the back panel, you pick up the front panels, and then you join the fronts and back together and work the V-neck even further. And you don't join in the round until after you finish the placard. So the placard is worked separately. So you do one side and then you do the other side. And then along the bottom here is where you pick up stitches to finally join the round. Super interesting construction. I've had a really fun time working on it. I love lace. And I mentioned last episode that I love cables and I love lace. And there's going to be a battle of cables and lace and we'll see who wins. Well, for knitting for 1 second every day, this hasn't gotten picked up, but the cables have. So that brings me to my next work in progress, which is my book club cardigan. Oh, like a bad knitter, I stopped in the middle of a row. Let me hold this up for you. This is the book club cardigan by Sari Nordland. I am almost done with the body. As you can see, I stopped in the middle of a row, but this will be a cardigan that does not close together. I will put buttons and a button band on it, but I'm almost done with the body. I have finished doing all of the cable repeats that I wanted to for the body. I opted out of doing the pocket, and now I'm doing ribbing. I'm going to extend the ribbing to be about 3 inches long. I don't know how many centimeters that is. Is that 7.5 centimeters long at the bottom? So that's longer than what the pattern calls for, but I did not feel comfortable stopping in the middle of one of these beautiful cables. I did not want it to be to here. But that's about how much more length I need to make up to make it a comfortable fit. I am going to crop it a bit. I want it to hit at my hip line, or hip, somewhere like right above my hip, around my waist. So when I wear high-waisted pants or dresses, it's really cute and it still defines my waist. So I plan to continue on with this by finishing out the ribbing, binding that off, and then doing the button band, because the button band is a new to me technique. I've never done a double knit button band. For shame, I know. I'm sure I'm going to love it. I love the look of it, so it's going to be a fun time. And then I will have 2 sleeves and I'll be done. I know that with blocking, this is going to get a little bit of growth and it's going to relax. Right now, this fabric doesn't have much to it. Like you can see, I'm trying to wave it and it all goes. It's very stiff. I don't think it's going to stay that way after blocking. This yarn is absolutely gorgeous for cables. This is Barocco Millstone Tweed, and this is the colorway Anchor. This I'm very motivated to work on with my nails, not because it matches exactly, because I won't be getting my nails gray anytime soon, but because the sparkly teal on my nails just complements the gray well and keeps me interested in working on this. So since I'm also in a fairly mindless spot, I've been using this as my knitting for 1 second every day, on top of the gifts, because I needed to get that done, and occasionally this 3-color t-shirt that I showed at the beginning. But I'm going to be working on this a lot in the coming weeks. And so for next time, I am hoping to have a finished t-shirt and a finished book club cardigan. Because right now we are on the border of me not being able to wear this for a few months. So I want to finish this for while the evenings are still chilly enough to wear a cardigan. And with that, I that takes me to the end of my works in progress. So let's jump right into acquisitions. We're going to jump right into it by me having to go get the 3-color t-shirt that I had just showed you. Was actually acquisition yarn. My boyfriend, God love him, came into the yarn store and said, "So what yarn do you want? What's your, no, he said, sorry, scratch that from the record. He said, so what's your next project?" Knowing that I had 2 sweaters on my needles that haven't been finished yet. But he said, so what's your next project? And I said, oh, I don't really know. Well, what yarn have you been looking at? I came in to work last Saturday thinking I can't buy yarn today. I have to focus on using my stash. Ooh, sneak peek. um, so then I said, well, we did just get this hot pink color in. It's currently attached to my project, but this hot pink color, we just got that one in, and I know that I love this yarn. It's coming to be the summer season. I know I'm going to be transitioning to knitting that kind of stuff. So he worked with all of the lovely ladies that hang out on Saturdays. He worked with all of them with that pink yarn and picked out this drift color. So he picked out Lotus, which is in Blue Sky Fibers organic cotton, and picked out Drift. And then they picked out a bright teal. And I was like, I don't like that. And then they all said, okay, just go with the 2. And I said, I want to add a dark teal to it instead of a bright one. Because we said it was giving Miami Vice. That's not exactly the vibe I was going for. And so then we ended up in a happy medium by grabbing the color Mediterranean. So he bought all of the yarn for that t-shirt. That's my only acquisition, or it was. I had no idea what I was going to do. When he got it, I was freaking out. I probably panicked for about 3 hours, so the remaining time of my shift. And as soon as I got home, I started going down a rabbit hole on Ravelry. Not that I didn't like what I was seeing, I just didn't want to modify things to have 3 colors because I liked how they were only 1 color or 2. And then I started sketching, and I drew a sketch for this pattern, and I immediately cast on after filling out my spreadsheet with all of my information. So between the hours of 1 o'clock and 6 o'clock last Saturday, I went through all of the phases of panic, anxiety, confusion, all the way through a full-fledged idea and design on my needles. And I finished the yoke in like 3 days because I was so excited about it. There's something about stripes. So my acquisition is Blue Sky. To get to the point here, my acquisition is Blue Sky Fibers Organic Cotton Sport in color Drift, Mediterranean, and in that t-shirt was Lotus. So I had 3 colors. I had to pick up 2 extra skeins of, or 1 extra skein of Drift and 1 extra skein of Mediterranean. I'm not going to wind these up just in case I don't need them, but after knitting for a couple days, it felt like I might need them. I hope that this hasn't been hard to hear. Okay, we're going to move on. Next, because I love it and it's a design, I picked up 2 more colors of Organic Cotton Sport. I want to buy 1 more color. It is their lemongrass. I'm going to put a picture here. But if we can imagine for a moment to include the lemongrass colorway in here. Actually, it's very, no, I don't. It's very similar to like this. It's brighter than this though. So I've been dreaming of using this black with that color, and then we sold out of that color, which is so good. I'm so happy because that color is beautiful. So the black is color Ink. The purple is color Orchid. So Orchid with black and a bright green, like a neon green, I think would make a beautiful sample of this t-shirt. So I always knit stuff twice, or that I've designed twice, because I need to make sure that my math is right, and that the first time I wrote the pattern, I'm writing it as I go. The second time is verifying that when I wrote as I go, I took into account everything that I needed to. And there's like one change I want to make. Like the raglan beginning of round is in the front. I want to switch that to be in the back. Easy stuff to change. It probably would be inconsequential if I changed it and didn't make another sample. But when you can buy the pretty yarn and make your own pattern that you really enjoy, why not do it? So I have these two. I'm waiting on the other one to come in. I'm not really in a rush to start it because I'm nervous about being able to release that pattern this summer anyhow. So it'll at least be a good refresher for later, or to knit it with my test knitters, because that's always fun. So then I wasn't supposed to buy yarn, right? I did, because I have a dream knit. I want to make the Stella quilt cushion by Laura Penrose, specifically using the modifications pack to do a chevron or a pinwheel pattern. Unsure on that. But that came from me really wanting to make the Stella quilt blanket, which is still in my dream knits. I have a lot of scrap yarn, as we all do. If you knit a lot, you have a lot that ends up left over after patterns, whether it's because you modified it and made something shorter, or it just didn't call for a full 100 grams. I need a good scrap use project, um, but that's for a different day. The main color alone in that is like 34 skeins. And that's the only yarn I'm planning to purchase to make that type of project. But I'm just not ready. That's a big leap. So I'm going to start with the cushion. That's way more manageable. So for the cushion, I'm leaning over and grabbing it off my little. I have a box is full of yarn that I put my yarn on top of for this podcast, in case you were wondering how fancy these logistics were. So I picked up 3 colors to make the Stella quilt cushion. I picked up this Vintage Baby by Barocco. This is color Mallard, Cerise, and then for the main color, Toast. So this, like, not quite white, not quite tan, but like right in the middle. I don't even know if it's cream though. That color is now showing up 3 times for me in things that I'm being drawn to as like a grounding color. I've never really been much of a neutrals girl at all. But I think this cup plays nicely. So I'm going to make the Stella quilt cushion. It takes 2 skeins of either of my contrast colors, and then I bought 4 of the main color because there is an envelope closure where the entire back panel is made out of just the main color. We'll see if I actually get it out of this much yarn. If I don't, I'm not too stressed. I'm going to use this as a basis of figuring out how much yarn do I really need to make the Stella quilt blanket. And then I have one more, or technically 2 more, but um, let's start with the last one that I purchased. So I was on the Columbus Craft Crawl, as I mentioned before. I saw this beautiful color from West Yorkshire Spinners Signature. This is their Christmas color. It's a self-striping sparkle yarn. You can really see the sparkle there. And it's going to look like that when it's knit up. I love it. It's gorgeous. And this is colorway Mulled Wine. Very Christmassy, very holiday-ish. We actually drink mulled wine courtesy of my cousin. He makes it every year. So when I saw this color, I needed this color, but I also knew we carried this yarn. So I sent a picture to the shop owner and said, "Are you going to get this color in the shop?" And she said, "Yes." I ordered it in September. It's been back ordered. It was supposed to be here at Christmas. And this Saturday was like Christmas because it showed up and she brought me one. So I'll be making socks. I don't know when I'll be making socks, but the summertime is where I get my sock mojo, and this is going to be on the list. I also think this would be cute in my cowl pattern. I will have leftovers after socks, and I could probably make it into this cowl. So that's Mulled Wine by West Yorkshire Spinners. It's their signature 4-ply. The fiber content on here, in case you were wondering, is 75% wool, 23% nylon, and 2% polyester. And I think that 2% polyester is just so they can get the sparkle. It's extremely soft. You can't feel the sparkle in here at all. This is sad. This is going to be a confession. Are you ready for my unpopular opinion? I don't hand wash any of my socks that I knit. I put them in the washer and dryer. Yes, they've shrunk. That's okay with me. I knit enough socks. I have baby-sized feet. I can make myself a pair of socks in like a week and a half, not even. And that might be very flippant of me to say because we all know that sock yarn is inexpensive. But they usually last me like 3, 4, maybe longer. 3, 4 years, maybe longer. Some of my really old ones that have felted the most have actually because I've worn them while I'm active. So if I'm going on a walk, or I used to teach dance classes, I accidentally wore my hand knit socks to dance class, taught a tap class, and they were felted
in that process. So I think it's going to be okay. I don't recommend machine washing this specific yarn though. My sister, who is absolutely wonderful at taking care of her knits, always hand washes her socks that I make her. So honestly, these might end up being for her. Sorry, Erica, if you're seeing this. Okay, next, Blue Sky Fibers. Look at how cute this little thing is. So they have a 27 color kit in their wool stock base. That's their worsted weight base. And they're coming out with 27 colors in the mini hanks for their fingering base. So I have some of these. I was planning to make a shop sample. We're still thinking about the idea though. So the plan is to make a chapter shawl. This is by Lily Kate France. It's super cute, intended to be used for like a advent calendar. It calls for 12 colors. There's 27 here, and I'm kind of modifying it, just planning out the colors smart. I don't know if it's going to turn into mini hanks or if I'm going to use full size hanks, but either way, I'm super excited that I get to make that shop sample because I will be traveling a little bit. I'm okay with that. I love traveling. But I need something to work on, and I always like to take a shop sample with me because it feels like I'm connected to my home local yarn store without actually being present in person. So the mini hanks, they're adorable. I only grabbed one out of the set because I've been winding them up. I do wind these by hand. They're 5 grams, 22 yards, or 20 meters each. And this is the color Cranberry Compote. Maybe I picked it because it's one of my favorites or because it's something that I think I need to knit with this fall. Maybe I just picked it because it was the top on the pile. You'll never know. Lastly, I got a Della Q bag. We have some Della Q snap bags. Local yarn store day, April 25th. Mark your calendars. If you have a local yarn store and you're not in my area, go to your local yarn store no matter what on April 25th because that is the National Local Yarn Store Day. There is going to be they usually have fun bags, fun kits. There's just a lot of camaraderie that happens on Local Yarn Store Day. It's such a joyful day. It was actually my first ever day starting to work at the yarn shop. The shop owner wasn't there because, you have a life. And I love my local yarn shop owner. So I got to start with another one of like my coworkers there and started on local yarn store day. And obviously it's one of the busiest day of the year, but it was just such a joyful day. I love learning on the job, like a trial by fire to say, put me into your busiest hour and then I'm going to be like the best you've ever seen. That's what happened when I was like my first ever job. I worked at a little ice cream shop and my first night there was the busiest night of the entire season. I learned how to make a flurry on the fly. I learned how to take an order on the fly. I knew how to make a cheeseburger and a coney dog and all those good things that we have at our small ice cream shops here. Um, so I was pretty good at my job because I had to learn you have to move fast. It's like sink or swim here.
Hi, Editing Taylor here. My mic stopped working 28 minutes into the video, so I apologize. I have no sound for the rest of it, but that was the end of the acquisition section, and I'm just popping in to remind you that my coziest beanie ever is out now, and the link to that pattern is below, and then the test call for the Garter Brick Cowl is also linked below, so sign up for that if you're interested. Thank you all for spending time with me at my podcast this week. I will see you again soon, and like and subscribe to be able to see more of these videos and encourage me to keep coming back. Have a great week and happy knitting.